everybody, this Monday night, last one in June. Okay, we're coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We're on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we are on YouTube. I would like to thank our wonderful sponsor. It's Carnation Monday around here. Want to thank them very much. They've been with us now for a couple years, and we really appreciate all you do for us. And I want you all to go give them a try. If you've never tried them, please do. All right, Preston, go.
Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight on episode 165. Can you believe it? Of The Light Gate. So happy you could join us. My name is, of course, Preston Dennett. I am your host, and my lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. For those of you who are joining us the first time, she's a contactee with quite a bit of experience, and I wrote a book about her called Symmetry. We have a really wonderful and important guest tonight, so I'm going to get right to it after a very quick hello to you folks, because we love you so much. We are very honored that you could join us this Monday evening. We have quite a crowd already, and I'm delighted to see familiar names and some that look like may be visiting us for the first time. So hello to all of you. Hello, Teresa. Hello, namaste. Thank you for your incredible generosity. We love you so much. We have Kaleidoscope Eyes. We have Little Wave 2 and OG Gook. We've got a lot of people. We have Cherise. We have Louis. Oh my goodness. It's so nice to see all you lovely people.
Oh, yeah, I know. First timer, welcome.
Dottie PNW. We have, of course, Louise, our regular. We love you so much, Louise. We have the Owlman. We have Dragon. Amazing. So yeah, I love all you guys. If I don't mention your name, don't think
because I like that.
You. We love all of you, but I'm going to get to our guest because this is just such an honor tonight to have this guest on. Let me pull up the banner. Yes, I can hardly believe it, but we have Robert Salas. Oh, thank you, Benno from Oz.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Wow, thank you.
Very, very delighted and excited to have Robert on to the show. Let me just tell you a little bit about him. You may already know him. He's pretty active in this field and a real important figure, I think, doing some very important work. Robert Salas is a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, class of 1964, and holds a master's degree in Aerospace Engineering from the Air Force Institute of Technology and a master's in education from the University of Washington. He served 7 years on active duty before separating from the Air Force in 1971. But while on active duty, he worked as a weapons controller, flew target drones, commanded intercontinental ballistic missiles as a launch officer, and worked as an Air Force missile propulsion engineer on the Titan III programs. From 1971 to 1973, he worked as a safety and reliability engineer for Martin-Marietta Aerospace and Rockwell International on SpaceShuttle design proposals. What a resume. I'm very impressed. From 1974 until his retirement from federal service in 1995, he worked for the FAA as an aircraft structures certification engineer. And from 1991 to 93, he served as an FAA attaché to the U.S. Embassy in Indonesia and advised that government on aircraft certification. And from 1998 to 2016, he was employed as a high school math teacher. In 2005, there was a landmark event in UFO publishing when Robert published the book Fated Giant with co-author James Klotz, which details his 1967 UFO incident while stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. This was followed up in 2013 by the book Unidentified: The UFO Phenomena, which provided new details on the phenomena. And his latest book is UAPs and the Nuclear Puzzle, which I think really solidifies the connection we have here and talks about the importance of truth and transparency with this subject. Very, very excited to talk to him about that. In, 2010, he's co-sponsored a press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., where he and 6 other ex-military witnesses testified to the propensity of UFO incidents at U.S. nuclear weapons bases. This is such an important subject. In May 2013, he participated in the citizens' hearing on disclosure at the National Press Club, Washington, D.C., and in 2021 organized another press conference with 3 other ex-military witnesses on the connection between UAP and nuclear incidents. As recently as 2022, he testified to a special session of the Senate in Brazil. 2023, he made a full presentation to Aero about the 1967 Malmstrom incident and also testified to the House of Deputies legislature. He has spoken at international conferences in more than 15 countries across the world and has been publicly speaking and appearing on television since 1996. So absolutely astonishing. Let's bring on our esteemed guest.
Welcome, Robert.
Hi, Dolly. Hi, Preston. Great to be with you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We met, actually. I'm not sure if you remember. And gosh, where was Thousand Oaks? Long time ago.
Actually, we met in Ventura. You were giving a presentation on underwater bases off the west coast of California.
Nice. Yeah, I remember that well. You were very kind and absolutely amazing.
How about that? Yeah.
Well, I was pretty amazed how much you knew about that subject. And of course, the truth of that has come out, since you talked about it. I'm sure you've written about it. But there have been other investigations. And yes, indeed, there is evidence of underwater bases off the coast.
Yeah, an enormous amount of USO activity off the Southern California coast there for sure.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's just so much to talk about with you, Robert. I'm not even sure where to start. But as I told you just prior to the show, I always love kind of starting the show, asking each guest how they got involved in this field, whether they believed in UFOs, have they had experiences, what was your pathway towards becoming so active in this field?
Yes. Well, I got involved when I had my incident. I was not involved prior to that. And my incident occurred on March 24th, 1967. I was located at a underground, what we called a launch control center, where we had control of 10 Minuteman I nuclear tipped ICBM intercontinental ballistic missiles. Yeah. And at one point that evening, when I was in command of the facility, my commander was taking a rest break, but at one point, a glowing red-orange bright light hovered above our facility, just above the front gate, and rendered all 10 of our missiles inoperative. And I put it that way because I want to emphasize that there was no damage done to the missiles themselves. They were simply, through some signal or some method, this object was able to, let's say, temporarily deactivate the guidance system of our missiles. And that's what shut them down or disabled them. They couldn't be launched if the guidance system was not working properly. So,
I have a question about that. Was it because the guidance systems couldn't communicate with the command? In other words, you lost signal to them? Is that what happened?
No, we didn't lose it. There's a certain piece of hardware called the logic coupler. Mm-hmm. See, we had inertial guidance. In other words, we didn't have navigation satellites like we do today. You know, we didn't
Right.
have GPS or anything like that. So the missiles were programmed to go to their targets after launch, and they would use a method of, you know, calculating their orientation or azimuth and distance and time, etc., was all fed into this onboard computer.
Okay.
And that's what we call the logic coupler. Well, when our missiles went down, we had a way of readout what the problem was. And the readout said guidance and control system failure on all 10. And this is the same thing that happened at another facility 8 days earlier. So we had, within 8 days, we had UFOs come over and disable those missiles also. So I'll be happy to get into more details if you'd like. But that's about it.
Yeah.
The other question I had, did they all go down exactly at the same time, or did they go bing, 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 bing?
Yeah, the bing, 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 bing. It was rather a very rapid sequence that they all went down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was amazing. How did you feel?
We were flabbergasted. Nothing like that. I was there for 3 years in that kind of duty, and we never experienced anything remotely like multiple shutdowns in rapid succession. This was a very reliable system, state of the art at the time. We had backups and backup systems that would prevent any serious mishaps or problems. We didn't know what to think of all of this. We were waiting for report back to us on crew duty because the Air Force would always give us a briefing before we went out in the field and tell us of any problems. Well, there was no briefing over the span of a couple of years on what was going on with their investigations. And so it became clear to me later on this was a cover-up. The Air Force did not want to either disclose to the public or inform even, excuse me, crew members as to what they thought might have happened. It was only later when I started doing my research and made contact with people like Robert Kaminsky, who was head of the Boeing investigative team, that I was able to determine what I just told you about the logic coupler being part of the issue, but they could not explain as to how the signal got into each logic coupler on each missile in rapid succession, because our, let's say, communication with the missiles was triply shielded, triply redundant. There shouldn't have been any kind of penetration of that system other than our own equipment.
How close was the UFO to the systems, to the actual missiles?
Excuse me. We had specific cables from under our floor of our capsule going to each missile separately.
Mm-hmm.
The cable location, I'd say, was a little over 60 feet from surface. And then the UFO that was observed and reported to us was about, let's say, 10 to 15 feet more, so 80 feet or so.
Very close.
From, from the cabling system. But again, that cabling system should have been impenetrable to any kind of stray signal.
Well,
So did anyone see actual solid objects, or were these described as lights, or?
Well, that's the first question I asked when the guard called down and was very frightened, trying to explain to me what he was looking at. He said, it's a bright orange red light. And I said, can you see inside the light? And he said, it's very difficult, but there's a general shape in there. And he described it as being oval shape inside the light. And that's about the best he could do. It was so bright.
Now, these missiles, as I understand it, are fairly widely spread. Is that correct? In terms of
they're about a mile or two away from our location in the capsule. So yeah, they were about a mile away. But like I said, we had connections with hardwired cabling from our capsule to each missile.
Here's a dumb question, because it was in the 60s. Did you all have cameras aimed at any of that equipment?
We did not have cameras upstairs or at the what we call launch facilities where the missiles were located. So I hate to disappoint everybody, but we had no video cameras or still cameras, unless one of the guards upstairs had a pocket camera of some sort. Of course, we didn't have iPhones.
Yeah, the cameras wouldn't work for him anyway. I was just curious because if the technology wasn't there to live feed to you a video of what was going on back then. And
No.
I want to show you something, okay? Do you see that?
Yep. Well, yep. Mm-hmm.
That's what they saw. Guarantee it. That's what they saw. And the crap behind that looks oval when you're trying to look past the light.
Mm-hmm.
It's very bright. It's almost like a solar sun. It's that bright. It's meant to disrupt your ability to totally see who they are when they're operating.
So can you walk us through it a little bit? How long was the craft there? What happened after these things shut down? I mean, this must have been absolute chaos at some point.
Well, we were very busy. What happened was, like I said, I got 2 calls from the main guard upstairs. We had about 6 guards or security personnel upstairs in charge of protecting the entire facility. We were underground, 60 feet underground, downstairs, locked in, basically. We could not open that door to the capsule, obviously, for security reasons, unless we went through a bit of a procedure, security procedure to open the door. So I couldn't just run up and take a look. But first call I got was from the guard saying that they've seen some strange lights flying above the facility.
Yeah.
But he kept repeating, they are not airplanes, sir. And the reason he kept saying was they're flying extremely fast, stopping in midair, reversing course in midair, making 90-degree turns. There is no engine noise.
Right.
And he kept saying, these are not aircraft, sir. He kept repeating that over and over. Now, I even said, what do you think they are, UFOs? Because we had reports in the local newspaper of strange lights in the sky over the city of Great Falls and various places. And we were getting reports from individual civilians. And that was written up in the newspaper that week. And So I jokingly said that, and then his reply was, "Sir, these are not aircraft."
Hmm.
So then I hung up. We hung up that call, and then he called back about 5-10 minutes later. This time, frightened, very frightened, screaming into the phone, babbling. He said he had all the guards out there. Their weapons were pointed at this bright light that was hovering just above the front gate. He wanted me to tell him what to do next. Well, this was shocking, but of course, I believed him. I had no reason not to, or any reason to think this was some kind of a prank. For one thing, they had no control over the missile's topside. They had absolutely no way of impacting or finagling the missiles in any way topside. We had all the equipment underground to control and launch these missiles. So they couldn't have done some kind of a practical joke. Basically, I wound up telling him, it's your duty to secure the facility. Make sure you do whatever it takes to not allow anybody or anything to enter the facility upstairs. And so we hung up the phone. I immediately, instinctively, I guess, looked over at my status board that showed the status of each of the missiles. And everything was green, ready to go, no problem. Then I went over and woke up my commander, who was taking a rest break, and started to tell him about the phone calls. And that's when we got our first loud horn go off, telling us that one of the missiles had gone down and turned from green to red, meaning no launch or no go. And then right after that, all the rest of them went down in sequence.
How long did it last? How long were they down?
Well, of course, we were relieved the next morning. They were still down when we were relieved, but we had by then notified command post back at the base. Our location was about 100 miles to the east of Great Falls and the base, but they dispatched maintenance people immediately, of course, and well, not immediately. There was a short delay. I can get into that later if you like, but and these were targeting teams, missile targeting teams, and maintenance, and they brought those missiles back up probably within a day or two.
Wow.
I say probably because I wasn't on alert status. I wasn't there when they came back up, but I did. I have spoken with the man who ran the targeting team, Robert Jameson, and he indicated that that's what they did. They had to retarget each of the missiles separately and bring them back up on alert. But again, there was no damage to any equipment.
Right.
We didn't have to replace anything. The targeting procedure could be done. It was fairly routine.
So they lost. Okay. So okay, I'm trying to understand what you just said. Hold on a second. So they lost their ability to target, and that's why they went down.
No, what happened was
So
they lost their ability to navigate or to, after launch, we have inertial equipment on board, such as gyroscopes,
yeah,
and, accelerometers,
yeah.
things like that. that are used to determine in flight if the missile is on track
Right.
to target, etc. And they lost that capability temporarily, which shut down the entire guidance system.
Okay. So they say they literally had to retarget. They had to reboot the
They
system,
had to
retarget. Yeah.
retarget each missile. Yes.
Wow.
So I would imagine that news of this incident spread through the entire base.
Well, through the entire Air Force. Yes. In fact, I've got a document on the Echo flight incident now. I don't want anybody to get confused, but I was at Oscar Flight, which is near a city, a little town called Roy, Montana.
Yeah.
8 days earlier, I later found out, Echo Flight had a very similar experience and lost all 10 of their missiles. And when I thought I could contact the Air Force under the Freedom of Information Act to ask them for information about what I thought was my incident,
Mm-hmm.
they sent me documentation. They said it was classified, but we're going to declassify the Echo flight incident, and sent me that documentation.
Wow.
And so you'll see a lot of that in my first book I wrote, Fated Giant. I'm sorry. Fated Giant. I've got a lot of that in the appendix, including a telegram that, interestingly enough, references a previous telegram about all 10 missiles going down at Echo Flight for some unknown reason. And this is of grave concern to this command. This was written by Strategic Air Command Headquarters, with copies, of course, sent to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, etc., on other bases, other missile bases. So this was a big deal. The Echo flight incident was the first of the two incidents that happened very close to each other.
Wow. So were you told not to talk about this afterwards, or were you ever in any way silenced?
I was ordered, me and my commander were ordered to sign a non-disclosure agreement thrown at us or placed in our faces by a member of Air Force Office of Special Investigation, AFOSI, which is essentially, I think, of the FBI of the Air Force. So we did sign after I complained about it, because we already had above top secret clearance. All they had to do was tell us not to talk, and I would have honored that. But they forced, they said, no, you have to sign these documents. So we did. And I didn't talk about this at all to anyone, including my wife, anyone within the Air Force. And then in 1994, I picked up a book called Above Top Secret by Timothy Good. If any of you have a copy of that, you can turn to page 301. And there's a relatively small paragraph there saying that UFOs were observed over two launch control facilities, in 1966 and 67, resulting in disabling of 10 missiles at each facility. And I got real excited because this was a publicly available book. I thought the Air Force must have declassified this incident. So that's when I decided to write to them, even though I wasn't supposed to talk about my incident at all. But I decided to write to them, not to say anything about UFOs, but I just wrote to them and said, can you send me any information or documentation about the incidents written about in this book? They wrote back and said, this incident is classified. However, since it's been classified for so long, we're going to declassify the records and send you documents. And that's what they did. And as soon as I received those documents, I made the decision to go public and add the fact.
Good.
Because I thought it was my incident. It described what I had generally remembered. Of course, this was 27 years after the fact, and I had forgotten a lot of the details, including where exactly I was at the time. But it described it so, and I had no idea there were two incidents. So I thought, I'm going to talk about this. The Air Force has declassified it, so I'm going to go public, and I did. I went on the Art Bell show. I gave an interview to the Great Falls Tribune, which was published, front page.
Wow.
And I've been talking ever since. I can't shut up.
I don't blame you.
Well, it's an important incident, so kudos to you for having the courage to do that. Did you get any pushback going public?
I don't know if you'd call it pushback. I was never contacted by the Air Force or government agency to say don't talk about this. I will say I had an incident where a couple of guys were rather forceful when they met me. They didn't threaten me or anything, but they were sort of threatening, if you know what I mean. But the other thing that happened was this ridiculous account in the Wall Street Journal about making a claim that it was an EMP test or an electromagnetic pulse test on the system that caused the missiles to shut down, which is ridiculous. I mean, I wrote a long rebuttal to the Wall Street Journal, and basically, there were EMP tests run on the missile systems, but they were done at a test facility, not on operational missiles. And I confirmed that with the people upstairs with my squadron commander. I asked him point blank, the first question I asked him was, what the heck was going on out there? Was this some kind of an Air Force exercise or a test? He assured me it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there's a long list of reasons why this couldn't have been an EMP test at the
It seemed to
time.
be very dangerous to do something like that without warning people, at least.
Yeah, we're talking about thousands of volts, and it would have had a major impact on our equipment. And like I said, we had no problem with the equipment in the capsule or any equipment on the missiles themselves.
Wow. So what, I'm asking you to speculate here, which of course is, not really fair, but what do you think was the whole intention of these UFOs? And I presume, these are ETs coming down and shutting our missiles off like this.
Yeah, I gave that some thought before I started writing my first book, and because in my research I discovered that there have been many incidents similar to mine all over the world, really. I'm convinced that since there was no damage done, that it was not done in a hostile manner, that it was a way for them to communicate to us about the extreme folly of even having nuclear weapons.
Good job. You did right. That's exactly what they planned to do.
Yeah.
People.
I mean, that was
They wanted
kind
you to think about it. What I really started thinking about when I realized all this was going on is that the military had to have become paramountly paranoid in those moments when this started happening. And they knew about the worldwide incidents too. They all talk. Okay. And I know that there was somebody sitting somewhere who realized we're screwed, because if they can do that to this, what else can they do? And that would cause paranoia among all of them so bad, and for them to keep.
Are you talking about the ETs, Dolly?
No, I'm talking about the freaking military industrial complex and the governments and the DOJs and the departments of war around the world. Okay. All these guys who weaponize everything and think that they're just so damn bloody smart, and then to have something out of their control that they can't control. And they know it now. It's 100% checked off the list of this is a known fact that they can turn your systems off just like that. For them to sit down and think, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Maybe they're trying to tell us something, and because see, that's how I look at it. It's like, I'm not trying to think of what they're doing. I already know, but I wanted to make sure that the idiots on this planet got that message completely. And maybe their paranoia is evidence of that. I hope so. I really do.
I think you're absolutely right, Dolly. Yes, I really do. In my books, I make, especially the last one, I make the argument that our strategic national security depends on this concept of nuclear deterrence.
Yeah.
And that simply means that if we have as many or more than nuclear weapons deliverable and ready to go than any other nation, then no nation is going to attack the United States with nuclear weapons. Well, I think there's a lot of problems with that kind of philosophy. And one of the problems is, of course, the arms race we had with Russia.
Yeah.
And the fact that we almost got into a nuclear war with Russia during the Cuban Missile Crisis. If it hadn't been for a Russian submarine commander not following orders to break the blockade that we had in Cuba against, around Cuba.
Yep.
If he had followed his orders, he would have attacked one of our vessels of that blockade, and that would have sparked a shooting war between us and the Soviet Union.
Yeah, my dad told me that they would have launched on the nuclear missiles in Cuba. They would have set them off. That would have been the first order of the day, to bomb those right now, and then to bomb Russia for it. And he told me he was active duty then. Okay, I knew a lot of stuff that was going on then, and he said they meant it. They were going to do it. There was no doubt in anybody's mind, and that's why that guy said, "No, we're not going to do this," because Russia had been warned multiple times. Go ahead, make my day. Because they knew they had missiles there, they knew they had them, and they were going to bomb them. And if they made one move, that's all it would have taken. If they had blown Cuba off the map, that's what they were going to do.
Right. Now, let me make a couple more points.
Okay.
Now, we had, number one, we had bombers in the air and loaded with nukes and bombers ready to take off. If that sparked, we were already in DEFCON 2.
Yep.
And that could very easily have resulted in nuclear war. In addition, during the Korean War, General Douglas MacArthur requested using nuclear weapons against China, who had hundreds of thousands of troops ready to invade North Korea in support of the Koreans.
Wow.
And he was so concerned that he wanted to use nuclear weapons to attack them. During the Vietnam War, General Westmoreland also requested of the Nixon administration to use nuclear weapons because more and more regular North Vietnamese army was coming to the South and in force, and he wanted to stop that. So if you tell a commander, we've got a fierce weapon, they're going to ask to use it in wartime. This is very risky stuff. So there's an extreme danger of nuclear weapons being used even today.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
Pakistan has a nuclear bomb.
one of the reasons I want to have more publicity around these kinds of incidents that I'm talking about is so that we can have a public discourse about them. Why don't we at least try to dismantle and disable all of our nuclear weapons? I'm not talking about unilaterally. I'm talking about together as nations.
Right.
And that was one objective of the agreement that Obama administration had with Russia in the what was called the New START Treaty. I think it was 2009, but anyway, as part of that treaty, the objective was eventually for both sides to get to zero nukes. And that was signed by both parties. So for any of your listeners out there, this is not impossible to have complete disarmament, but we'd have to work at it. We have to commit to that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, how many countries now have nuclear weapons?
We have nine that we know of.
Yeah. There's probably one or two that you don't know. Yeah.
Two of those countries are at war with each other.
Exactly.
India and Pakistan.
Yep.
It doesn't take much highly enriched uranium to build a bomb, a useful nuclear device.
Right.
I think it's only about 3 kilograms of highly enriched uranium.
Right. Wow.
Now, President Trump keeps claiming that they demolished all of Iran's highly enriched uranium, but that has yet to be proven.
Right.
And
yeah, they're supposed to be getting it out of there. They have to remove it from the country to do that. And they haven't proven that they've removed it from the country yet. They don't even have our people in there yet. I watched this very closely. And unless and until we have hands on, eyes on that stuff, and that we're the ones that bring it out, not them, and that we totally bomb or from the inside those areas after it's out and to the ground, totally destroy them, I'm not going to be satisfied that they haven't got some up their sleeve.
That's who's to say that they didn't remove that before the bombing?
We don't know. That's right.
We don't know. And who's to say where it could be hidden? Well, good luck with that. How many places are there to hide?
Yeah, well, they're all on the mountains there. They got holes everywhere. I mean, there's no way to know. And he had plenty of time to figure it out while the bombing was going on.
Well, exactly. We could use some help from the ETs regarding that. But here's my other question. So we have not only nuclear weapons, we have nuclear power stations, we have nuclear powered craft. And I'm wondering how widespread this is, because me personally, I research contactee incidents mostly, but I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Gary Wagoner, who was on the USS Long Beach, nuclear powered. They had an incident. I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Ray Sachs, who was on the USS Clamagore in 1971. They had nuclear-tipped torpedoes. They had an incident, shut down their whole submarine underwater, scared the living daylights out of them. The backups didn't work either. They were dead in the water there for a very short time, but clearly another sort of demonstration. So I've got a number of cases myself.
Well,
this must be happening a lot more often than we hear about.
Absolutely. Well, you know as well as I do how a nuclear reactor works, right? Nuclear power generator.
Right.
It uses well, let's say like a nuclear generator on land uses plutonium rods that heat the water that turns to steam.
The thermodynamic turbine, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the turbine produces electricity, right?
Yes. And at some point they have to replace those rods, but those rods that are replaced are not completely inert.
That's right. They don't use them all the way up.
They
become nuclear waste. Yep.
They're still radioactive, and they can use those rods to enrich the uranium content or the radioactive content of those rods, and to the point where they could be used for a nuclear weapon.
Right.
So that essentially is what I think ET understands, and why it has paid attention to these nuclear generating facilities, not only the power plants, but nuclear submarines, nuclear aircraft carriers, etc. And now the latest is that we want to build bases on the moon. How do you think they're going to power those bases on the moon?
It's not going to be solar. It's going to be nuclear. That's right.
They're going to take nuclear material up there to run those bases.
Our technology has superseded our moral amplitude, our moral heart and soul of all humanity. We don't have enough knowledge to use and guide the use of these materials in a sane, moral way. And the fact that we are so hell-bent on weaponizing everything and doing everything in our power to find any way to do so is more than disconcerting. You've got a bunch of people coming in from somewhere else who are giving us giant clues as to why we're stupid and we need to wake up. And nobody's taking the hint. And the reason that it's not happening is because the military-industrial complex, which is global now, in cooperation with governments and, all kinds of rich, crazy people, power-hungry people, don't want the truth to come out. Because if it did, you would know number one, ET does not want you using nuclear power here. They want us to stop because it's going to kill us all. There's also other reasons for that going to happen, but I'm not going to bore you with that tonight. There is no way we can continue to do this and expect our world to survive anything. We're going to permanently hurt ourselves. We need to stop. And that's why disclosure is so important. Okay? I agree.
I agree, Dolly. That's why I keep pressing my incident and others like it to get more publicity and interest. I have briefed Congress, 2 Congress people individually, gave them face-to-face briefings on my incident. I have also given a 2.5-hour presentation to the Aero people, the Aero group. You both know what Aero is, yes?
Yeah. All the name, anomaly, reconnaissance. It's a mouthful, isn't it? Office.
Yeah. all domain anomaly
reconnaissance office.
Reconnaissance
reconnaissance
officer.
office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
At any rate, I've got correspondence from them saying that they were very pleased with my presentation, which included documents and testimonies in the form of affidavits, etc. A lot of documentation supporting this. And they informed me that it was now an official historical record on UAP. It's an official record. And since regulations require them to report to Congress about these historical testimonies like mine, Congress should have the availability to go read my entire report. And yet,
should be required reading, actually.
should be required reading. And yet, I haven't heard a peep out of Congress that they have done that or are making an issue out of it. And probably because they've been told not to say anything because it's a matter of national security.
Right.
And we cannot discuss that openly. We don't want the public to know anything about how we're dealing with this. So,
well, here's an interesting question from chat, which is relevant here from Teresa. Did they track the UFO over your missile silo? So was there any radar evidence of this?
interesting. I have heard some reports of radar tracking. Interestingly enough, there was another incident that evening, the same evening as mine, involving sightings on the base over Malmstrom Air Force Base and tracked by radar. So the details of that are kind of cloudy, but that was written up. I've got documentation on that, and also a landing of a UFO not far from about 35 miles to the north, to the southeast of Great Falls. There was a landing that was observed not only by a civilian truck driver, but by the highway patrol, and later by Air Force personnel. And so, to answer your question, yes, there were radar reports of tracking UFOs on that very evening of my incident.
Wow. So how many witnesses at this point have come forward, and do you think there are more who haven't spoken? I would assume that there's probably
yes. Yes, I think there are more. Excuse me. My commander has confirmed the incident in writing and by affidavit. The commander of the Echo flight, his deputy was in charge at the time, and he has confirmed it by audio recording statements, which I have with his permission. And the commander confirmed that. I haven't had any of the guards come forward at this point. However, many of those were sent to Vietnam and did not come home, but there may have been some survivors. I don't know. So there are some witnesses, and like I mentioned, Robert Jameson, who was the head of the retargeting crew or targeting crew, has also come forward and confirmed that all 10 of my missiles were shut down for no apparent reason. We also have the statements by the Boeing investigative team of Echo Flight, that it was a UFO incident. And we have the affidavit of Ray Fowler, who is manager of electrical systems on the Minuteman system, who also confirmed that this was a UFO. These were UFO incidents, both. So there's plenty of people in support of what I've said, and I've documented all of that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Are you, have you ever been asked to go before one of the committees in Washington that are doing disclosure right now? Have they?
No, I have not. I'm waiting to be invited to to do that, even though my incident was brought up during a hearing. I think this was 2023 or 2024. There was a hearing with the an intelligence community member and also DOD member. Can't remember their names right now, but the man, the representative, House representative, asking questions, did bring up the Malmstrom cases, and they refused to give any acknowledgement or agreement on those incidents, but they promised to look into it. And again, I wrote to them right away and said I'm available to testify. I still haven't heard from them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
in the
it's very
congressional hearings.
Yeah.
I think they deliberately do not want this to be a public issue.
Yeah, when we
You
first
don't
started
want it
having
on the record,
when we
'cause
first
then they
started
have
having
to-
congressional hearings, when we first started having congressional hearings in 2016, there was the two heads of defense, Moultrie and Daley. They were asked specifically. Yeah.
Right.
And absolutely denied anything about. They said they had no reporting on this. Is that what they said, or something along those lines? Which seems so
They said,
disingenuous.
they just shuffled their feet, said I really hadn't heard about this, or I don't know
Yeah,
any
we
details.
have no knowledge of this incident. That's
No
what they said.
knowledge.
Which is unbelievable to me. I mean,
Yeah.
that cannot possibly be true. I mean, if they're
Not as much as I've been talking about it. No.
and so we still haven't gotten any. I mean, I don't know what we would call official confirmation of this incident at this point, because here you are confirming it, and that's pretty darn official. And you know, your superior, and how many people did you say? Dozens at this point have come forward about this.
A lot of people have supported what I just told you. Yes.
Well, if they unclassified the information about your incident, okay, that means it's unclassified, and then it's readable into the record.
Oh, they
That's what's messing
declassified.
with-
They declassified the Echo flight incident. I was at Oscar flight.
Oh,
Echo flight happened 8 days before Oscar.
so who does anybody from the Echo incident want to talk publicly?
No. Although I have the man that was involved on audio tape. His name is Walter Fiegel, retired colonel. I have no idea if he's still alive. The last time I spoke to him was about 2 years ago, but I do have his audio testimony, and if people want to hear it, they just have to go to my YouTube channel. It's Robert Salas at Giant Head 3 on YouTube, and you can hear his testimony.
Fantastic. Guess what I'm going to be doing this weekend or this week coming? I mean, maybe even tomorrow, tonight.
But
Okay.
I did notify Arrow of him,
Yeah.
his name, and so they have had the opportunity to reach out to him to see if he would testify, and
Mhm.
I haven't heard back anything about that. it's almost like, they monkeys see, no monkeys do.
Yeah.
Have there been any attempts to use the
Well,
Freedom of Information Act to get?
I'm sorry, what?
Has there been any attempts to use the Freedom of Information Act to sort of get more documentation of this incident?
Yes, I have tried to get a classified report that was done by the Air Force of the Echo flight incident, without success. But I've asked others now to intervene. Hopefully, we'll make some headway there. But I've got the name of the report, the date, all the information needed to look for it. And we've requested it by name to the Air Force under FOIA. And even though they declassified many, many other documents and the incident itself, they have not responded to our request for this report.
Yeah. This is infuriating to me because here we have Grush, who was never involved in any direct incidents. He just knows of them, quote, unquote. And then we have you, who were absolutely involved and have, experiential knowledge of this, along with data to back you up and other things. And he's getting all the play in Washington, and you're not. This bothers me immensely. It's like they're playing a game. One of the things that I think that they're going to do, and you might agree with me, I don't know, is I think they're creating a false flag. I think that they're getting ready to do something truly stupid and make humanity believe that ET are coming to get them and are a national security threat.
That's one thing that does concern me also. There was a recent documentary, forget the name of it now. But it was about disclosure, and I was on it. But the theme throughout seemed to be, oh dear, this is a national security issue. And that's the tone that the Department of War or Department of Defense is now taking. It seems that they know that these incidents happen, and they're essentially saying that since we cannot stop it or stop them, we must hold this secret because, or not talk about it because it involves our national security. Again, the basis of our strategic national security is nuclear deterrence. And I don't think they want any discussion about the possibility of getting rid of our nukes.
I agree. Well, we're building, think about it, we're building nuclear sites all over this country, everywhere, Alaska and Hawaii included, massive amounts, and data centers, which need water to operate and energy to operate. And I know that the one in Texas, they're building a nuclear facility just to run the power for the bloody thing, and it's huge. They're going to keep doing that in other places. We live in Georgia, and I'm already starting to get ready to paint my sign. Better stop now, because they're building unbelievable amounts of this stuff in places and taking away people's rights to live, eminent domain. They're wiping people out just to get these centers up and running, and they're taking our water. Georgia's a very water-rich state, and they're executing it by using it up for that. And the whole time you sit there and you think, why? What the heck is so important to you people that you have to do this kind of technology to this level? How is this going to help humanity?
Well, that brings up, my next question. We've had, as you know, I'm sure, 3 recent major file drops that were supposedly previously declassified, and a number of films. Do you find this encouraging? Do you think we'll ever have disclosure and truth and transparency with this subject? Or are we
Well,
moving in the right direction?
uh, I like the fact that the government is involved in releasing information. One of the documents that they did release was what's called a let's see, NORAD memo about incidents in 1975 of UFO encounters over nuclear weapons missile facilities, and some in Montana, in September, October of 1975. So that is an official record of the fact that of these sightings. They don't go into any real detail like I have, but it is something. Now, they haven't given us what we're all looking for, and that is conclusions that, yes, various agencies have been studying this with recovered craft, with recovered bodies, and here are some of the results. That's what we would really like to see, to blow this thing all wide open. But the real issue goes down to the people, the actual humans that have worked on these programs are very fearful of breaking the restrictions which they have as NDAs or other orders of not speaking about these studies, or suffer serious consequences. And they don't know how to break that up. The government has a system of classification that they need to overhaul, need to change in order to get these people to be able to speak about this through some methodology or regulation. So no, to answer your last question, I don't think we're ever going to have complete, honest, satisfying disclosure until something is done about this classification system.
Yeah, I'm agree with you there. There's been a policy of lying for so long that it would take an enormous sea change in this whole operation to turn that all around. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Plus, there's a very strong, and you might agree with me, Dolly, group, which I call the cabal, the secrecy cabal, that's going to any and all ways to maintain these secrets.
Right. You're exactly correct. There is a cabal. They're at the head of all of it, and they have their reasons. They're not happy reasons to know, but they have reasons.
Exactly. They have their own reasons. You name it, greed and etc. But power. But so that's going to have to be recognized and addressed also.
Yes.
It's not just an internal government, broken government. It's also this real cabal, which, by the way, was this idea was supported by Spielberg's latest movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So I was wondering, and this is kind of a tangent, in terms of your own personal encounters, have you had anything you can share in that regard?
Yes, I have. And I've gone public on this. In fact, I wrote about it in 2 of my books, I think. In 1985, I was out of the Air Force. I was working for FAA at the time and living in Manhattan Beach, California. at a particular house that I recall. We had lived in multiple houses there, and because I was going through the process of buying fixers, fixing them up, selling them, trying to get closer and closer to the beach.
Okay.
But in 85, I know where I was, and I know what that house looked like. And one evening, I was asleep with my wife, and we had two small children in the house. I woke up for some reason and noticed there was a blue light coming from our living room. We had no blue lights in the living room. I woke my wife up. She confirmed that she saw the blue light. And then I told her I was going to get up to investigate. And as I tried to get up, I became paralyzed, couldn't move. And I struggled. And I remember struggling. I remember the fear I felt of being paralyzed. I couldn't move my hands, arms, legs. I barely moved my head to ask my wife for help, but now she was of no use. She had gone back to sleep for some reason. The next thing I remember was seeing someone or something in the doorway of our bedroom, had a hood on. I could not make out the face. And by the way, what I'm telling you right now is retrieved from 4 therapy sessions, hypnotherapy sessions that I've had to recover these memories. So this person or being was in the doorway. It had a hood on. I could not make out the face. It seemed to be about human size of a man. Scared me. Of course, I was frightened, but because I was paralyzed, couldn't do anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Next thing that happened was I was aware of what I thought were small children in the room. Not my children, but small beings. By small, I mean 3 to 4 feet tall. And again, I don't remember seeing their faces. After that, I was lifted off my bed, floating and being directed to float towards the bedroom window. The bedroom window was locked. I remember locking it, and I thought these children had no way of reaching the latch. But they didn't bother with that. They took me right through the window. I know this sounds ridiculous. I see Dolly nodding, but this is exactly what happened. There was no broken glass. The window was not open. They took me right through it. On the other side, I was outside now, and there was a bright light. The next thing I remember was being on board a craft, and something or someone was pointing or was placing this long needle in front of my eyes, right in front of my eyes. They wanted me to see it. It was very long. And they communicated to me telepathically, not by voice, that they were going to insert this needle, but it wouldn't hurt. They were going to insert it in me. Of course, I was curious where, but
yeah.
When they did insert it down by my groin area, it hurt like hell. It was the worst pain I've ever felt. And so I expressed that in one way or another, and almost immediately the pain went away.
Yeah.
After that, they set me up. I had 2 escorts, and these appeared to be the gray type individuals. They were standing or actually floating on either side of me. And they floated me over to, we didn't walk, we floated over to a what I would call a molded seating arrangement into the side of the aircraft. It was kind of a molded seat. They sat me there for a while. They took me to another location then. There was another being in there who turned me around and then simply placed 2 fingers along my spine in this manner. I can only speculate why, but you know, the spine has the spinal cord and all the whatever that entails. So that's all he did. He turned me back around, and then I was guided along a curved hallway and bright light, and I was back in my bed. The next morning, neither my wife nor I spoke of anything that happened the previous night. We didn't have any memories of that. There was no memory of it until about 25 years later. I had been speaking at a conference in Ireland, and now we were sitting in the audience. I was next to my wife, and a lady gets up there to talk about her experience and said the words, and then a blue light came and flooded my room. I immediately turned to my wife, who was sitting next to me, and said, "Do you remember a blue light in our room?"
Yeah, that's amnesia. Your amnesia woke up.
Yeah, I call that a cue. You know, some often
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah.
It kind of something
Yeah.
clicked up there.
Yeah.
And she confirmed it right on the spot. My wife
both same time.
said, "Yes, I remember." And at that point, I realized that, you know, this was not a dream. This really happened.
Yeah.
And so that evening, I started getting hypnotherapy sessions.
Oh wow, that fast, amazing.
Now, there was a lady there that was able to do that, and so I took advantage of that.
Is that
What year was this? What year was it? 80?
I want to say no, it was 2011 or 2012.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Are you glad you did that? Do you feel like that was beneficial, going under hypnosis?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad I got some information. Now, I don't think I got a recall of everything that really happened during the incident, because after those sessions, I started having some dreams, which I wrote down. I do have a journal of some of the dreams I've had after that. So I think there's more to be told about that, but I have not gone back for more hypnotherapy sessions at this point.
So did the dreams reveal anything that wasn't in the hypnotherapy session? Like any communication, perhaps?
Well, I'd have to look at them again, but they do reveal other things. Like, for example, one of the dreams, I see this very black eyeball, very shiny. I can even see the furrows in the around the eyelid. furrows in the skin.
Wow.
And it was very clear. It was like this being was right next to me. And I've had other things that I dreamt about, such as being informed of something very technical very quickly. It was almost like a light shade coming down of technical symbols, and it kept coming down. Things like that need some interpretation and more understanding. But let me just end with this. Remember, I was shown this long needle on the craft, and it was being held by these long, bony fingers. Long, bony fingers. Okay, so in 2018, 2017, 2018, I got a call from a friend who was going down to Peru to attend a presentation on these so-called mummies that were found in the Nazca region of Peru. I don't know if you've heard about these.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
The tridactyl.
Tridactyl. Yes. Well, at first I didn't want to go, and I thought it might not be worth the expense and the effort. But then I went to their website, and one of the things they recovered in this underground cave, besides the mummies, were these detached hands, tridactyl hands, 3 fingers, very long hands, and very long fingers.
Yeah, there's an ethnicity of grays that are 3-fingered. Literally.
When I saw these photographs,
3 or 5-fingered. Yeah.
those fingers reminded me very much of the fingers I saw holding this long needle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like it belonged to somebody that could have been part bird, right? I'm not kidding. I'm really not kidding around. Yeah.
That is a very interesting, by the way. There's a lot of supporting evidence for the fact that these so-called mummies did live at one time.
Yep.
At any rate, I got on an airplane after begging my wife to spend the money down to Peru, and I attended these lectures by scientists who had analyzed the DNA, who did aging testing. Some of these beings are thousands of years old. I found it very interesting. I asked to see the actual mummies themselves, and I was able to go see where they were held incognito, of course, and I was able to hold the hand. It's about this long.
Oh, wow. That must have been interesting. Yeah.
And I've got a photograph of that. But anyway, I felt that beings like this were the ones that I had my experience with.
Well, this brings up the question, because having talked to a lot of people who've had these kinds of experiences, it's rarely a one-off. And often people will describe visitations early in childhood or a second or third encounter. Do you have any indication that this might have not been a singular event?
Oh, yes. I don't know how much time you have, but anyway, going back to my mother, she always would tell this story. When she was a teenager, they had a sleepover in the area that I was born in. I was born near Chandler, Arizona, and she grew up there. And when she was a teenager, she had a sleepover with some friends. And so they were all, in their sleeping bags in this room, this large bedroom, one night when they woke up to see a tall, blonde-haired woman in a very, seemed like a nightgown type of thing. The children didn't know who she was. It was kind of shocking to see her enter the room. She turned and smiled at my mother and then left. And then the next night, same scenario, but this time my mother was awakened by what she described as a midget and
Wow.
whispering some strange language in her ear that she didn't understand, and scared her. She shouted out, woke everybody up, and everybody saw this little midget run out of the room. So there's that. I always connected that to a possible encounter experience. My mother denied, that this could have been some special encounter, but anyway, she couldn't explain the rest of it.
Mhm.
And then when I was a child, I remember something in my room and my standing up in a crib. So I must have been about no more than 3 or 4 years old. And asking the question, oh, why am I here? I can't explain more than that. I mean, it was, but it was a very vivid thing that happened to me when I was very young. I remember it vividly. So yeah, I think I've had those experiences, and then plus my wife, who is now deceased, and I have been living in this house that I am in now for over 20 years, 25 years. And we've had many visitations. She has. And it's too bad she can't tell you about them. But they were definitely visits, let's say.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I'm not a bit surprised to hear this, because as I said, that's more the rule than the exception. Another thing I'm curious about, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but have you had any like psychic experiences at all? Because I find that a lot of contactees have paranormal events happen in their life. So perhaps like out-of-body experiences or clairvoyance or precognition or anything along these lines?
I don't think I can claim any of that. I think my wife could. I'll give you an example. She used to practice hands-on healing, and I've always thought that some of the experiences she had were as a result of being taken and given some special gift of healing. But she helped a lot of people when she was alive, and at one point she was asked or told by some spirit to develop a healing spray or a mist.
Wow.
And of course she said, I don't know anything about that, how to do that. And they said that they would help. And so they told her exactly how many drops of this particular something called essential oils to put into a container and develop this particular healing mist. And they told her this through the use of a psychic download and using a pendulum. She was able to determine how many drops of each particular essential oil would be required. And she actually produced this and sold it. And even after death, my daughter's taking over producing the mist and selling it online. But
Very interesting.
so I guess you could call that psychic, but
Yeah.
me personally, I can't claim any such thing.
All right. Well, here's another question I have. Having traveled all over the world, and I mean, you've got this amazing resume visiting Norway and France and England and Ireland, Germany, Italy, Bulgaria, so forth, South Africa. How do they feel about this phenomena? Are they studying it? Are they aware of the nuclear connection?
Well, they were after I spoke, yes. But everywhere I spoke, I was received very well, I think. And there's no doubt there's a worldwide interest in this subject and a thirst for knowledge about it. And I still correspond with some of the people that organize these trips for me, and everybody's hopeful there will be more information coming forth. So, yeah, there's no doubt that this has worldwide interest.
Well, that's definitely encouraging to hear, and I'm just very, very honored that you've done what you've done to help push this subject forward, because there's no one out there, with your experience in terms of firsthand, who's that active and really trying to push this forward. So you're an important figure in the whole disclosure movement, I think. Of course, we do have people like, what's his name? The truth embargo guy, Stephen Bassett. Have you talked with him much?
Oh, sure. I talk to Steve all the time. He's been very dedicated and trying to work directly with people in government. He helped me set up these appointments with those two Congress people I talked about. So yeah, Steve's a good man.
Wonderful.
We're gonna stick with it. We're gonna keep trying to inform the public. That's basically my mission, to make sure the public realizes the truth of these incidents. The message, I think, and that these are extraterrestrial civilizations, and they have a message for us. And I think they're for us. They're trying to help us evolve, become more enlightened and understanding of what's at stake, not only for our civilization, but the other cosmic civilizations.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Well, we have just about 5 minutes or so, 8 more minutes. I do want to pop up your book here so I can encourage everyone to check it out. Do you want to say a few words about this book here, UAPs and the Nuclear Puzzle?
Well, this is actually a refinement of the previous book I wrote, but it has more details on other incidents. I've listed at least 13, I think, incidents involving UFOs at or near nuclear weapons facilities. And and goes into more details on those, not only in the United States, but also in other parts of the world. So I think people will find it informative, and yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Dolly, do you have any other questions?
Not that I'm going to ask live on the air. I got a couple. No, I'm glad that you're saying that your overall impression of the ETs, even through your experiences, they were benign. In other words, they weren't really trying to harm you in any way. Correct? Is that what you
That's
mean?
right. I don't think they were trying to harm us or pose a threat to us or our national security. And as indicated by other people, if they wanted to attack us violently, they would have done so by now, I think.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you. By experience and by just watching what's going on myself,
Right.
It's ridiculous that we can attach so much misinformation and disinformation without true knowledge. Too much, we're hearing things secondhand, third hand, fourth hand, fifth hand, or just completely made up, and believing it as if it's real. And there's so much of it going on here. It's like the government pushes for that as well. They want as much misinformation and disinformation. They want as much deniable plausibility going on. They want us to be totally 100% confused. And it's really up to us, every one of us, to do our due diligence, to teach ourselves what we need to do to understand what's really going on and learn to research what the truth really is. And the truth isn't hearsay. The truth isn't what my best friend's brother's dog said yesterday or what you see on the internet, because the internet's full of unbelievable counterintelligence. And it's really up to us to figure this out and then move forward. That's all you can do. I mean, one of the first things that I learned was learn all that is learnable and then proceed, And you have to understand that we live in a world where whatever we say or do has a reaction, and it's either good or not good, bad. And if we're passing lies around or we're passing misinformation around, that's a negative effect on the rest of us. You're impeding the truth to others. And we need to really start paying attention to how we talk about this and what we really do know or not know, and how to seek what the real truth is. And our government needs to come clean. I know they're not going to do it. I know they have an agenda, but we can all work around them if we have to. That's the glory of being human. We're intelligent beings. Use your mind, use your thoughts, your abilities, learn to be discernible. And that's what I tell people, it's up to us, not them, us.
Yeah. For anyone listening, again, I'll repeat, I've got quite a lot of information on not only my incident, but other incidents, like I said, I've written about on my YouTube channel. And I don't charge anybody to go on there and look at any of that. You can look at it for free, and there's a lot of information, a lot of videos on there. In I think 2019, I and others gave a press conference at the National Press Club and talked about other incidents in some detail, going back to 1945, as a matter of fact, and even before the first atomic bomb was exploded. And I think, yeah, so there's a lot there people can go look at.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, thank you again for all that you've done. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Yes.
You're absolutely doing really important work, and we appreciate you taking the time with us here tonight. So
I'm going to throw that back at you, Preston. You have done a lot yourself.
Yeah.
You have been outspoken since I first met you, and you haven't faltered. You've written books and spoken in many places. Dolly, I don't know you as well, but I'm sure you have too.
She's
But-
come forward. It took courage, definitely.
Thank you
No,
both.
So
Thank you both.
it's an honor, sir. It really is an honor. And we want you to come back. Anytime you want to come back and you want to talk about this, we're open door. And if you have something new to tell us, we'd love for you to come here to do that.
Okay.
Are you working on another book, by the way?
I'm working on something now that I can't talk about too much, but hopefully within a year I might be able to talk about it.
Awesome. That's totally awesome.
Very cool. All right. Well, I guess we'll end the show now. We don't want to go overtime. So thank you again, Robert. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you, again, taking out time from your busy schedules. I want to give an extra thanks to those of you who donated to the show. Namaste. It means a lot. Benno from Oz.
Yeah.
Ogazan Ardik. I think I got that right. So let me know. Sunny Burnett and Petri, you guys are absolutely wonderful. Carly, we truly appreciate it. But all of you, it's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Robert, chat loves you. They're absolutely very, very thankful that you came to our show tonight. So yeah, thank you again. And I guess that's it. Dolly, you want to take us out?
Robert, hang on. Don't hang up. When we close this show, stay on with us. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you, everybody,
Thank you.
for coming to us on the Light Gate on this Monday night. We're coming to you live from the beautiful city in New Orleans, in Louisiana, at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. We're coming to you live from Facebook, Roku, Rumble, and YouTube. I want y'all to go have a wonderful rest of the month. It's short, and we'll see you in July. Mwah. Night, night, everybody.